So the gut microbiota is a very dense ecosystem composed of several hundreds of microorganisms. In 1 gram of stools, you have more than 100 billions of microorganisms. And this microorganism plays several roles for our health. If you put together all the genes present in the gut microbiota of one human being, it represents 150-fold times the human genome. So really huge metabolic capabilities. And actually, when you look at human blood, for example, you realize that about 30% of the molecules you will find are microbiota derived, meaning that you are completely immersed in a microbiota world, even if you do not know it. First, actually, there is factors that can impact our gut and our microbiota development even before birth. So, for example, the gut microbiota of the mother can have some impact on the newborn. Vaginal infection can have also impact, and periodontitis has been shown also to be able to impact the gut microbiota of the newborn. Obviously, the type of birth is also very important. When you have a vaginal delivery, you do not meet the same microorganism than when you have a C-section. When you have a C-section, you will mostly meet bacteria from the skin or from the operating room, whereas when you have a vaginal delivery, you will meet bacteria from the vagina, lactobacilli, and also from the gut, actually. Our microbiota is under a double influence. First, it is influenced by our own genetics, but it is also influenced by several environmental factors. Among these environmental factors, antibiotics are obvious, and you probably all experienced this impact on your microbiota if you take wide-spectrum antibiotics. We also know that other drugs can have some impact on the microbiota: infection, smoking, age, and of course diet. The microbiota composition is quite specific to one person, and here you have the composition of the microbiota of about 15 healthy subjects in big groups, and you can see that the composition is very variable in terms of the 2 dominant phyla, the Firmicutes here and the Bacteroidetes here. However, when you look at the function that are present in this microbiota, and you do not look only at the tag of the bacteria, the gut microbiota has also important role to modulate our brain functions. So is there some dietary factors that can impact the microbiota? Obviously, the answer is yes. Regarding humans, there is one very interesting study that has been published in 2010 comparing the microbiota of children between 1 and 6 years old from rural Africa in Burkina Faso and from Europe. It was actually from Italy. They found that the microbiota composition is completely different between these two populations. In Europe, you do not have these bacteria. You have a majority of Firmicutes and some Bacteroidetes, of course, here, but these are not the same Bacteroidetes compared to the one found in rural Africa. So what is the explanation? The explanation is quite simple, in fact. It comes from the diet. In this specific population, people are eating mostly millet and sorghum grain, which are composed of, which have high fiber content and actually very strong fiber. On the other hand, unfortunately, you know that in Western countries, the Western diet does not contain enough fiber, and a lot of children actually eat very low amount of fibers. The diet being rich in fibers, the microbiota which is here is able to use these fibers, whereas on the other hand, when you do not eat fibers, the bacteria that might be able to use it are just disappearing. Fermented products such as yogurt, which are rich in different strains of bacteria. So the dysbiosis, meaning that the abnormal composition of the microbiota can have consequences on our gut physiology. So, in conclusion, few messages. First, the gut microbiota is composed of trillions of microorganisms, mainly bacteria, but there are other organisms such as fungi. The microbiota is under the double influence of our genes and our environment. The microbiota is a key factor for very important physiological functions, including metabolism, immunity, and even brain functions. This biosis can play a role in many intestinal but also extra-intestinal diseases, including IBD, obesity, and neuropsychiatric disease. However, in many of these diseases and in many diseases of our Western world, the microbiota seems to be quite central in the pathogenesis. And thus, targeting the gut microbiota as a preventive or therapeutic strategy is particularly relevant. And for this purpose, particularly in preventive strategy, diet is obviously a very interesting way to do it.